Right guys, welcome back to the channel, to the next episode of Your Armies on Parade, and we've got a fantastic army, a Wood Elves army, so mainly Age of Sigmar here, by the fantastic Mr. Jez Andrews. Jez, welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Some of you may actually recognise some of Jez's work. Jez has featured in White Dwarf and on the community page a number of times, so obviously well done for that, Jez.
Thank you.
One in particular model, one of my favourites of course, will be his Alario, which you'll see coming up on the screen in a few moments. But a most recent one, which I am actually going to slide in, Jez, is your Horticulus model.
I'm very proud of that, actually.
Yes.
Probably one of my best.
Absolutely fantastic painted model, and it featured on the Warhammer community page this month, so again, congratulations and well done
Thank you.
to that. Of course, you can check Jez's work out on Facebook. So without further ado, Jez, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you painted and gamed for, and where do you game?
I have been in the hobby probably from 1988, so I've been in it quite a while now. I said that though, but I've kind of gone off because I think I was about 11 when I got into it, and some friends are starting to play fantasy. Mainly with a very mismatch of kind of models that they could collect, as you probably do as a child.
Yeah.
I remember trying to get dwarves as an army and things, but I think when you're young, you don't have any money. It's quite a hard hobby to really get into properly.
And you always just pick
as much as
random
you
models
like
that
having
you
big
think
armies. Yeah, as much as you like having sort of big armies and things, it's just not kind of that easy to accept unless you've got lots of rich parents and all that. But I think a couple of games that really probably got me into it a lot were Adeptus Titanicus, the original one, and Blood Bowl, which you probably see somewhere in my paintings. I know you've seen some of my Blood Bowl guys. I use the very old style colours because it's part of what I grew up with, really. I think I'm very much stuck in that way. There's probably a middle part of my life where I'm not really being with the hobby, I think. I've found other things to do.
Do you know what? Everybody I speak to says that they kind of lose track of it sort of early 20s or so, and then come back to it later in life.
Yeah, the 20s seem to be a period of there's other things to do. I mean, I've always been heavily into my cycling for years and things as a sport, so that's probably where it's laid. But that's kind of, as I've got older, that's become sort of less likely for me to do, and I've just enjoyed painting a lot more and things and games.
Yeah.
If you're around this area, there's lots of like the gaming clubs. So there's the Durham Raiders Club, which is quite close to where I am. There's Battle Bunker, which has now obviously come up in Sunderland, which is great as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more sort of accessible, a lot more players around that I can sort of go and play games with a bit more now, which is good.
Yeah, and I think especially obviously over the last sort of, how long has it been, 2 years since Blood Bowl came back out, there's been a resurgence of older gamers come back to the hobby, in particular with, like I said, Blood Bowl and more recently Adeptus Titanicus as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I haven't got my hands on it yet. I had a look at one of the models the other day, but yeah, I'm looking forward to having a play with that myself.
I saw a set at Battle Bunker at the weekend, and the Warlord Titans are phenomenally detailed.
They are beautiful. They are really nice.
So obviously with Wood Elves, this is the army that we're going to be looking at. But before we look more in depth at them, do you collect any other Age of Sigmar or fantasy armies other than the Wood Elves and the Sylvaneth?
I am currently painting up a Maggotkin army, which obviously heads my Horticulus model. That's going to be part of my army. I mean, I know I do paint sometimes as well as I can to put them so they get shown off like that, but they actually are still part of something that will go on a tabletop at the end of the day and will be gamed with.
Yeah.
I've had a few games with it. I mean, it's not all completely finished yet. I'm probably about halfway through. And it's a very different army to play with, which is good, which is what I really wanted to have. And it's not very shooty in comparison to Wood Elves, or Wanderers as they probably should be called now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of enjoying a little bit of a fresh sort of army to play with, which is nice.
Excellent. So, with the Wood Elves, what drew you to this army? What kind of inspired you to go, right, I'm going to do Wood Elves?
I think they're one of the old style kind of fantasy armies, and this is probably going back to playing it for many years ago. It's the look of them, really, and I think when I'm looking at an army, I've got to decide whether there's lots of units to paint, whether I want to paint the actual battle line kind of part of the army, the ones that you're going to have to paint a lot of, and the Glade Guard, the ones of the main core part army, I still think, even now, are still really, really nice models, and it just makes it more of a pleasure to sort of paint them. I come back from a background where I actually want to paint more than I necessarily wanted a game. It's not so much the case now, but when I started, I was interested as an art project more than anything else.
Yeah.
I wanted to paint something as well as I could, have something that looked really nice at the end of the day. And those models, I thought, just looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And they've got better as well with the Sylvaneth range that's come out, and all the things like Alariel or the Corner Hunters, they're beautiful models as well. It's just made me want to just keep collecting as much as I could.
Yeah, the Sylvaneth are beautiful models. I mean, obviously I painted Lucy's army for her, but I really, really enjoyed painting them. Even the 60 Dryads that I had to do.
They're not quite so much fun, but they actually are really good models in fairness.
Yeah.
I can enjoy those. So that's probably what drew me to them. I think it's a look. And it's the same when I've got to the Nurgle one. I thought actually Plague Bearers, I still really like those. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm going to be painting a lot of them, but I want to enjoy painting them.
Of course.
This is what put me off. This is what tends to put me off 40k armies like Space Marines. I look at them and think I might get bored halfway through that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think you could just do it quickly, but yeah, I like to take my time on things anyway, so I think I'd get fed up after a bit.
I noticed, especially when I painted my Beast Claw Raiders, because I was so used to painting like Space Marine armor or something similar, to be able to paint something natural and fancy rather than just armor. It was such a nice change, and I tend to find, depending on what mood I'm in, I'll either paint like natural fantasy things, for example, my ogres or whatever, or I'll go for like heavily armored stuff. So it is nice to have something.
It's one of your better looking armies, though. I wonder if that says something for it.
Definitely, you know what? I really, really enjoyed painting them. And a lot of the armies I do paint, obviously for the channel, but the Beast Claws was something that I wanted to paint. I wanted to paint something different, and like you said, I feel it definitely shows.
Yeah, definitely.
That's enough.
They looked really good on the table when we had that game.
Yes, we do. Yes, it was. We do need another one.
But
enough about my army. I want to talk about yours, not mine. Why did you choose the kind of traditional elf scheme? Why didn't you go with one of the seasons? What drew you to kind of spring? In particular, obviously, you know, you've got quite fresh grass, you've got mushrooms and things like that on your bases.
The bases came later on because obviously they would have been the Age of Sigmar adjustments. So I originally had them. They were very grassy bases, but they weren't on stone or anything like that. And they were quite plain. I mean, the original color scheme I think was probably me being a bit boring actually. It's only till later on you start seeing the autumn themes thinking, we should have done that. But in the books at the time, it was a lot of just that kind of colour, so I've kind of been a bit of a copycat, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit guilty of not being original with those two things. I've just gone ahead with them, and it's good enough colour scheme. It's a nice, easy colour scheme to do. But then you start seeing armies have done in the winter theme.
Yeah.
And some of them look really good. Oh, rat. Too late by that point, though. But obviously then once I painted them, I changed it. One changed to Age of Sigmar. I put them all on round bases, but I put them all on stone. It's all proper stone as well. It's all slate. Like I've picked up off the floor from houses around here. I usually go out after it's been really windy, so I find out that some on the floor. It makes for great bases.
Couple of roof tiles.
Yeah, a couple of roof tiles with like the really thin slate. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So I used all those. It's the mushrooms. I don't know. I think I just liked. I did a couple and I thought, I like that. So I made it a little bit of a theme. It's not on every base, but you'll see them across. It's mainly on the hero bases, but there are a few scattered amongst all the sort of general guys as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure which hero this one is, but he stood on an entire mushroom that covers most of the base.
He's actually a slight conversion. He originally came on with the eagle.
Right.
It's the metal eagle, which I don't think I've got a picture of for you actually. It's on the metal eagle. I decided I just wanted to use it as just an eagle at the time. So I thought, well, what do I do with this guy? And I thought, well, you know what? He had his hand in the right position, so I chopped his hand off, put a standard there, and put him on a huge mushroom. That was my first conversion I think I'd ever done that was as well.
Right.
So you got to imagine that these guys that I painted they're about 10 years old now from when I started painting.
Wow.
I know. I mean, I've changed my paint style a little bit in that time, but there's still elements of how I painted from 10 years ago that I still keep now. I'm just trying to think.
Still look fantastic as well.
The guy I think I painted first is I don't know what they call it. Is it a wave? Is it the waypoint? No, it's the guy with the big sword, the big broadsword thing that he's holding. name's gone out of my head now. But he was my very first one I painted, first hero I painted.
Yeah.
I'm looking about now, you can tell it. You can just about tell, I think, that there's a bit of a difference as it goes towards the sort of Sylvaneth kind of guys. I think they're better painted.
Yeah. Interesting enough as well, I know you don't use an airbrush, do you?
I don't know.
Which is amazing. You know,
for years, I know this sounds really snobby, I was really against airbrushes.
I always was, and when I picked it up, I did essentially have to relearn to paint, and I do look at a lot of airbrush work now and think, you know what, I'm tempted to repaint it. But a lot of stuff I do think, you know, brush work wins out, and what you've managed to achieve with a brush on these is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you, but I think nowadays, like I know where you come from with yours, because you sometimes like do quite a way of doing it quickly, and I can see that's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes though I see people use an airbrush and they just leave it kind of quite a flat color on it without adding to it, and I think that's not the right way of doing it. I think you need to do both. I think to get the best effects out of it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. I can't remember the name of the Polish guys, Katarzyska or something like that, Gorneski, I think.
Right.
I can't remember the name. And she uses her airbrushes, but she also uses a painting by hand, and I think hers are absolutely stunning. And that makes me think, well, I'd almost like to learn to use airbrush to see if I could try go and then do something like that.
The first time
you have to learn how to do it, don't you?
Yeah, the first time I essentially painted with the airbrush was my towel, so I base coated them with the airbrush, painted most of the rest of the stuff in, and then airbrushed all the heat and weathering effect, and I think that, you know, they've come out well, and they've come out very quickly, but I've used kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do.
Yeah. So anyway, when you're playing your Sylvaneth and your
Wanderers,
I'm just trying to think of the correct.
I know, to get them the right name. I still call them Wood Elves.
Yeah. They'll always be Wood Elves to most people.
Yeah.
What armies, when you come up against, do you think, great, that's going to be tough?
Usually armies that move really fast, and armies that can really sort of be hit quite in a tanky way. So Beastclaws Raiders were a big of a headache for me, because they were right in my front line really early on in a sort of game. The one I played against you, that was tough.
Yeah.
But anything that moves fast, it's because you're relying on really with a Wanderer army of holding back, shooting as much as you can, because as soon as you get in close combat with them, to be honest, they just fall apart.
Yeah.
And they're very hard. It becomes a very tough game if you're from the go. You're on the back foot, and you're sort of thinking, well, I'm going to have to put screens up in front of my archers, and hopefully they just knock a few more off. So any armies that can get straight up to you, it's quite horrible, really. We did actually a mock-up game I did with my son at Battle Bunker on the weekend. He used my Wanderers army against Nurgle.
Right.
And they did much better against Nurgle because they weren't quite quick enough, so they were able to shoot them quite effectively. So it's good to see that even with the more modern armies, they can still keep up, I think. Because sometimes people talk about the newer armies being a little bit more overpowered, and actually they still held their ground quite well, which is good to see. They haven't been completely nerfed to the point where you can't use them properly.
Excellent. So when you obviously do spend like 50 hours painting articulate climax, what do you like to have on in the background? What do you listen to? What music? Any TV shows? Any hobby related stuff?
A lot of the time it's actually silence.
Right.
Don't know why, but if I am listening to music, I just usually go onto things like Spotify, and my music is more sort of folk pop. I know that sounds really weird, but it's not. It's just something I've kind of gained a taste. Like, you go into game shops and things, they always put heavy metal on and things, and I can see why people think that's the kind of music that goes with it. But for me, it's not when I'm painting.
Yeah.
It does. I need something more relaxing, I think, because I'm spending a long time and spending over certain things. I need something that's just a little bit more chilled. It's my relaxation time at the end of the day, I think, when it comes to me painting, and that's why it gives me the time just to sort of relax and paint and spend my time on them.
Excellent. Obviously, from what you said there, I can kind of guess what your answer is going to be here, but do you consider yourself to be more of a painter, a collector, or a gamer?
I wish I had the money to be a collector. So by default, it means I end up being a painter more than I am a gamer as well, because I think it's more with a family as well as things. I don't always get as much time as I'd like.
Yeah.
I'm hoping as my kids get older, that'll probably change. So I've ended up being a painter. I started off as a painter. I still think that's what I am, really. But my mean is to have an army that I would actually then be able to use. It's not just to be purely a painter.
Yeah.
I've never painted anything just as a trophy, if you know what I mean.
I think as a personal challenge to yourself, you should just look for a model that you think, wow, I want to paint that. And even if you never play it, I think you should do this. And obviously you're a fantastic painter anyway, but challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
yeah.
I mean, I think you pushed the boundaries with Slime Mix, but I still think you've got more in you, Jez.
No, thanks. I was trying to. That was my aim. I picked it up. I thought, I'm thinking about doing something like a golden demon. Let's see what I can do with it. I mean, I look at it. I would change the base if I could. Probably go back and make it slightly different. But I was using it for sort of like a display piece. Because obviously I always had it as a game piece. I just kept the base fairly plain for that particular model. But my son's going to keep saying to me, Dad, just enter.
Have you entered yet?
No, I haven't.
As far as Golden Demon's concerned, I think you should enter because I really think you would, at minimum, get a finalist pin.
Which would be great. In fairness, I think that would be enough for me to be happy with. I think that'd be quite something to be proud of. But the trouble is, I'm one of those people that looks at other people's artwork, and there's so many really good painters out there, and it is kind of always puts me off.
But you know,
I always doubt myself.
They always say though that you are your own worst critic.
Yeah.
So
very true.
Don't listen to your own opinion.
I just have to cave into what my son says and say, just enter, and I'll just have to do it.
You really should. You really should.
Okay, all right. I'll consider it then. I've got to find the right model though, so I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah, actually. So if anyone's got any suggestions as to what they would like to see Jez paint up, leave it in the comments down below. And obviously, if Jez doesn't see it, I can certainly pass it on.
Yeah, definitely.
The next question is still in relation to your sort of play style with the Wanderers. And again, you kind of touched on this, but what kind of a gamer are you when you do game? Do you like sort of a mobile army? Do you like a sort of castled army? Do you like to get up close and personal?
I don't know. I mean, I've obviously with the Wanderers, it's made me play a little bit defensively, and I've got very used to sort of sitting back, shooting you to bits. Yay, I win. Now with the Age of Sigmar, it kind of made it a bit more complicated because obviously you need to get those objectives to win the game. And when I played against Lucy, your fiance, I just thought I might add that in there. I completely killed off her Slaanesh sort of army. Took loads of points to her, but I still lost the game because I was struggling to get the points.
Yeah, she hasn't used them since then actually, because with the new Stormcast book coming out, she's been relearning them. Yeah. But that's what I discovered with Slaanesh. They are incredibly quick to get onto the objectives.
Yeah,
and again, it was a massive different type of game for her because she wasn't used to taking so many casualties. With her playing Stormcast, she's used to being quite resilient.
Yeah.
So for her, losing as many casualties but still kind of winning on points was a big thing.
I think she lost something like 12,000 in casualties to my like 100 or 200 points.
Yeah.
And yet I actually got annihilated in terms of points in the game. It was like, well, that's wrong. It's just, I feel like I'm winning, but yeah, I'm not really winning because I can't get you off the objectives because you've just got so many sort of models there, and it was tough.
Yeah.
It was a tough game. So I'm now enjoying a little bit more of an offensive army with Nurgle, just going up there and getting the objectives and just saying, right, I'm going to stay here. That's going to be my thing. So I'm kind of enjoying that a little bit more at the moment.
Yeah.
Nice to play something different.
Definitely.
Something a bit more aggressive. So yeah, I wouldn't say I like a particular style. I just go with whatever the army's good at.
Right. Do any of your heroes or leaders or commanders or whatever have any sort of victory stories from battles? Have they defeated any particularly vicious foes or?
No, sadly I don't tend to. I'm not very good at keeping track of things like that. I know some people like their heroes and like proper names and things, don't they? So they've done this. The only guys I'll always say that always seem to do well for me, those are the Way Watchers.
Yeah.
And I used to have a trio of Way Watchers, and they have downed a lot of beasts in their time just single-handedly. I love taking them and watching people's faces as they rolls on twos and threes. with the -1 rend, and you can double the amount of attacks they've got. So normally it's 3.
I seem to remember you leaving my Stonehorn on 1 wound as a result of this.
Yeah, that was a sad time, but I didn't quite get rid of that 1 wound. But yeah, it was the case that they just fired so much. But when they stand still, of course, they get +1 to hit.
Yeah.
Which affects then their mortal win rates as well. They are brilliant, really. I just let them stand still, let them stand next to the Nomad Punch. I mean, that means that they've got a re-roll of 1s as well, so you're not likely to miss them, really.
Yeah.
And they're just fantastic. I mean, they've gone up in points a little bit. They're 120 points now rather than 100.
Right.
It really messes a little bit with my army list that I make for them. So sometimes I'm finding myself only taking 2 now, but even 2's pretty good still. I still try and scrape in 3 if I can, though, just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Just because I don't think people expect them to do very much, because they're very small, really, in comparison to some of these bigger models these days, like the Stormcast, but they sit back and they do their job. And for that, I think they're my favourites. They're always my heroes every game.
Brilliant. I was going to ask what's next for the army. A lot of people will have picked up the old metal prints, which obviously you've got in your collection here when it was on for made to order a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic model, by the way. A pain to put together, I'm in no doubt.
No, yeah, the dragon was a bit of a pain. I know they brought the Sisters of Twilight one out, and I was half tempted. But yeah, it's a nightmare of a model put together. The tail was forever dropping off. I think I've managed to super glue to a point where it can't do that now.
What's next for the army? What do you want to add as a whole to the Sylvaneth and Wanderers force that you've got?
I think I'm going to bite the bullet on a little bit on this. I'm actually going to split them.
Right.
And I think I'm living in hope that one day Wanderers will get the extras that they need to bring them back up to being a full-size arm. They need another big centerpiece model, because a lot of the ones got taken away from them.
Yeah. Like
the older models got their metal. So I'd like to see Wanderers become a bit more supported in terms of having better models.
Yeah.
But I think in the meantime, for me, I might just complete that Sylvaneth side to it and actually have a proper 2,000-point army for those instead. So I need some more Dryads, I think, would be good starting points. Definitely. But the Tree Revenants and things, I really love those models. I need some of those in my life, I think.
The models are beautiful.
They're some of my favourites.
They don't seem to hit quite hard enough in game. I mean, Lucy's got 60 Dryads and she loves them so much so that she bought another 30 for me to build and paint.
Yeah, I think I'd cry if I had to paint that many of those. But the basis of my army originally wasn't anything to do with how hard they hit.
Yeah.
It was whether they looked nice.
Yeah.
And Tree Revenants will have to go on my list because I think they look nice. I might regret it later on if they hit like wet fish, but they've got to have some uses. They do go off the board at the end of the day, and they can come up with something to the side. I think that's quite useful.
Yeah, definitely.
What else would I like? I'd probably like another Tree Lord, to be honest.
Yeah. Drycha, maybe?
Oh, yes, definitely. I was just trying to think of a name then. Yes, definitely. That's another they actually look, the models themselves are really lovely for that army. I think I would be quite happy to have her as well.
Yeah.
And I think it also give me a bit of scope. Then I can mix and match a little bit. I mean, these days I tend to play a little bit more as an order army anyway, because I like to use both Sylvaneth and Wanderers together. Mm-hmm. I do like to see both of them used together, and I think actually they're slightly stronger than if I use just a pure Wanderers army.
Yeah, and of course, if you wanted to, you can still run, of course, a Sylvaneth Allegiance army and then take a couple of squads of Wanderers as allies, because they
that'd be another way of doing it, yes, definitely. I'd probably take the Glade Guard over the Corner Hunters with bows now, actually.
Yeah.
I think they're better for what their points values are, just about better anyway. Yeah. And just use my Corner Hunters and sides to do all the hard work with the close combat.
Definitely. So, the final question now I've got for you, Jez, right?
Mm-hmm.
If money was no question, you could walk into Forge World or Games Workshop, right, and pick up any amount of models, any models you want for whatever army you want, what would it be and why?
That's a tricky one. I'm going to say, and I know this is going to sound a bit strange because I'm going away from my fantasy, I would love a 40k and I'd like an Orc army.
Yes.
I know I painted my son's, he's got a greenskin army, and I painted that for Age of Sigmar, and I did like that. But actually the models, I think the models are fantastic. I know that you'd have to get an awful lot of them again, there'd be a lot of painting, but I just love them. They just look great. What's the new one they've got in the with the new Speed Freaks one? those buggies and things. They look amazing.
They're so cool. I can't wait till they come out. I mean, it's only going to be another week or two from the point that we're recording this. Actually, we're sort of middle to end of September. But it's going to be out in probably 3 weeks' time, Jez. And I don't collect dogs, but I'm picking it up, and I'm excited to race around with some orc trucks.
That sounds great. I mean, I just found the models themselves, though. I just look at those, and that's just a painter's paradise. Those just right there. Yeah. And I just think even if you include those things like those in a kind of army or something, that'd be it. That's what I would have. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, they did say on the community page that the models in there could actually build. I think it's like a fast attack detachment, which is a HQ and 3 fast attacks.
Yeah, well, they did talk to them in terms of not just being as part of their game, but that you could use them in sort of the bigger games as well.
Yeah.
So I could see them looking really good. But even like the stompers and things as well, though, it's all those sort of things. I think, that would be me.
Yeah.
Be happy.
Lucy saw the stompers of Warhammer World and she was like, that is so cool, like just metal just thrown at it and stuck together. And
I also think there's so many different ways you can kind of paint them. I enjoy painting my Blood Bowl team, actually, my Blood Bowl team, because you could be kind of a bit more scrappy with your paint a little bit as well. Like weathering effects and things. So it's a different painting style to them, I think, actually, when you paint them up. You don't have to be like, I think Eldar's always put me off because I always feel that Eldar needs a very smooth paint job.
Yeah.
Which would suit people with airbrushes, I think. They're definitely an airbrush army. Whereas Orcs, I think you could be a bit more scrappy.
Funny you should say that, actually, when I mentioned earlier about looking at my armies and thinking, oh, should I redo them with the airbrush? I was actually thinking the Eldar army.
Yeah. Oh, you don't need to redo them, they're fine. They look good. They look good. Don't get anything else. Or he's got a new one, paint it a different colour.
See, the thing is, mine are purple at the moment, so I can technically run them as any of the craft worlds.
Yeah, that's true.
My craft world doesn't have rules, because Games Workshop forgot about us.
Crafty.
So, yeah. Well, listen, Jez, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and, of course, show off your fantastic wanderers in Sylvaneth.
Thank you for having me on your channel.
Sorry?
Thank you for having me on your channel.
Not a problem at all. Jez does post regularly in the League of Artisans group. So on the showcase videos each weekend, check out some of his updates as he goes through. In particular with your
Great Unclean one.
Great Unclean one was featured last week.
Nearly done.
Fully magnetised as well.
Yes. Apart from I haven't done the Rotka's heads and things yet, because I ran out of magnets. But they will follow. But the head and the hands are done. I just need to get his base done, really.
Excellent stuff. Well, thank you very much once again, Jez.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody that has tuned in and listened. And if you would like to feature your army, don't forget to get in touch. The email address is listed down below. But thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.